He's never fought us. Not us united.
My favorite moment in the entire... Maybe I should complicate this before I start speaking here.
Welcome to Comics League Indie Wednesday. I'm Jared, and today we are talking about 300. Yes, the comic that actually inspired the badass movie that we've covered, and we are going to cover more on Snyder Saturday, eventually. But this is a comic written by Frank Miller, art by Lynn Varley, that inspired the movie. So we're going to talk about this. And this is, by the way, again, this is why I love Snyder's movies. He very much keeps to the comic. Like pretty much everything in the movie happened in the comic. Snyder may have embellished certain things, but pretty much it's here. So for those of you that don't know, this is the story of the 300 Spartans of Thermopylae. This is more of the mythological portion of it, but this is like when 300 Spartans stopped the Persian army from taking over Greece, or like inspired the Greeks to rise up. So we start off, we have a Spartan army marching, and now we're going to go back to the very beginning. So we have these soldiers. These Spartan soldiers are essentially getting ready for battle, and one of them starts telling a story about the Spartan king Leonidas, his origin. This is where we get the idea of the Spartans, where when they're born, they're inspected, and if there's any like malformity, whether or not that's like a birth defect, if they're unperfect in any way, they are discarded. But if they're not, they are taken from their families at age 6, put in what's called the agoge, which is when they're immersed in military culture. Then they're sent out into the wild to survive on their own for like a certain amount of time. Then they can come back. So we have Leonidas fighting the wolf, and he kills the wolf, and then he comes back at the king, our king Leonidas. Then we cut into the Persian emissary coming to Sparta, and he's like, it's essentially a lot of the lines from the movie, which is like fantastic. I love it, including he basically goes, it's madness. When Leonidas basically threatens him, the Persian king the Persian emissary basically goes, this is madness, and then Leonidas goes,
This is Sparta!
Yeah, pretty much that. Then we cut to chapter 2, which is duty. Chapter 2 is when Leonidas goes to the oracles because the Spartan king needs permission from the oracles to go to war. So he climbs above, and he lays out his battle plan. The battle plan is he's going to funnel the Persian army into what's called the Hot Gates. And what the Hot Gates are, is this narrow mountain pass. What that does is, and what Leonidas believes that will do is it will allow the Spartans' superior fighting skills to vanquish the Persian army, because the Persians can only send a certain amount of people at the Spartans at a time in one direction. So, and the Persians do not have the amount of military skill that the Spartans have. They just don't. So that's the idea. We're going to funnel them, and their numbers will count for nothing, as Leonidas says. So then they consult the oracle, and the oracle says, you can't go to war because there's this special festival that's going on where it's forbidden for Spartan kings to go to war. So then we cut to the next day. Spoiler alert, Leonidas goes to war, except he sort of takes it as a semantic and goes, well, I'm not going to war. See, I'm going for a walk. These 300 guys are my personal bodyguard. So good. And we get the whole Spartan come back with their shielder on it, which is great. And then then what's so great is that then we have the scene where Leonidas rendezvous like an army of Greeks, and the Greeks are like, I would have thought that Sparta would at least match our contribution. In other words, would at least match our numbers, but you bring only 300. So Leonidas goes, okay, so what's your profession? Sculptor, blacksmith, baker. And then Leonidas goes, Spartans!
What is your profession?
You see, old friend, I brought more soldiers than you did. I love this. That is so good. And you have the march scene, and then they're marching. And then we have the badass scene that I use all the time for the celebration, when they run to the Persian fleet, and then it gets like wrecked by naval ships. It gets wrecked by a hurricane, and this happened. Yeah, it's pretty much that. It's like only one of us keeps his Spartan resolve. Only him, the king. His thoughts are bittersweet. The fools, the dear young fools, they actually think they have a chance. The Persians actually think they have a chance. So then we have FELTs following the Spartans, and we have the Spartans doing like training and stuff. And then we have the awesome scene where like another Persian emissary comes to the Spartans and asks them to surrender. Then they find the wall that's like made up of rocks and Persians, and then the Spartans cut off the emissary's arm, and then he goes, "Our arrows will blot out the sun. Then we will fight in the shade." Yep, all these badass lines from the movie are straight up from the comic, and I love it so much. Then we get the scene where he finds FELTs, except in the comic, when FELTs is rejected by Leonidas, he actually jumps off the mountain and tries to commit suicide. He doesn't just like throw the shield off. It could be that that's what happened. It could be that wasn't like a deleted scene, but that's actually what happened in the comics. That's one change that Snyder did make. Then we get the awesome battle scene, and then this one, the Spartans just say, "Come and get it," instead of saying, "Come and get our weapons." Which either way is fine with me. It looks badass. Then the Spartans start fighting in the dope phalanx. I'm gonna hold that up. You could see that. I love Frank Miller's bloody artwork when he's doing a mature theme book. It's really great. Then we have the awesome clip. I mean, the frame that was recreated legit in the movie of the Persians being knocked off the cliff by the Spartans. Then the arrows get launched, and then the Spartans like block them with their shields, and we get the whole fight in the shade laughter scene, which is so great. And then we get they keep charging, they kill everyone, and then we get the scene where Leonidas first meets Xerxes, and Xerxes basically goes like, "You should surrender, think of your women. You obviously don't know our women. We might as well have marched them out here." From what I've seen so far, it's basically tons of back talk between Leonidas and Xerxes. It's so great. It's that exact scene. And then we get the Immortals, and the Immortals get like destroyed by the Spartans anyway. They put their name to the test, and they fail the test. And the Spartans are like so like excited because they're like, "Hey, we can do this! We can do this!" And then in Victory, which is the last part, we get more of we get the awesome scene where they send the elephants off the cliffside, and then the kings and they talk about how they lose soldiers, including the captain who lost his son. We saw that in the movie where his head gets lopped off. And then we get the scene where FELTs makes a deal with Xerxes, except it's less like explicit than the previous one. And then this is where they find out that the Hunchback Trader has given the Persians the path to get out, to attack, to essentially attack behind the Spartans in order to flank them. So the Spartans basically go, "Okay, so we're going to go to battle." And then the Greeks are like, "What are you talking about? We have to surrender. We're not going to win this." And then Leonidas goes, "That's an easy choice. Spartans never surrender. It's against our rules. We never, ever, ever surrender." That's like a point. No retreat, no surrender. In fact, I think I have a thing here.
No retreat, no surrender.
That's Spartan law. And then, in fact, Leonidas even goes,
"We will stand and fight."
There you go. And the essentially all the other Greeks leave, including one of the Spartans, who Leonidas sends back and says, "Hey, we're probably going to die, but I want you to go to Sparta because you have the ability to tell stories really well, and I want you to tell them our story." so that it may inspire Greece to rise up against Persia. And it actually works. So the Spartans are surrounded by the immortals, and then they make that final plea to Leonidas, saying, "Hey, why don't you surrender, please? All you have to do is surrender. It's everything is all is forgiven." So actually, first, when Leonidas sees Ephialtes, he goes, "May you live forever." Now, remember, from the movie, the greatest honor a Spartan can have is to die on the battlefield. So essentially, Leonidas is telling Ephialtes, "You're a traitor. I hope you never get that honor." So that's savage. So Leonidas drops stuff and kneels, but then he goes. But then he has one of the Spartans kill another Persian emissary. It's really bad luck to be a Persian emissary. And then the Spartans essentially get all wiped out, but not before Leonidas throws his spear and it scratches Xerxes' face and makes him bleed, because Xerxes fancied himself a god. But when you make a god bleed, people stop forgiving him, not believing in him. And then all the Spartans are wiped out. But this time, it actually inspired all of the Greeks to rise up. And it turns out, so the storyteller goes, okay, so those Persians know what they endured at the hand of 300, but now they're facing 10,000 Spartans commanding an army of 40,000 30,000 free Greeks. And they all charge in, and then that's basically the movie. That's basically how it ends. Badass comic, and it's very much like the movie. And that's one of the things I love about Snyder stuff, is that he very much keeps to the original like heart of the comic itself. And yeah. So it's like, even in Batman versus Superman, you could take that as Dark Knight Returns, and Superman, and essentially, okay, so in Dark Knight Returns, Superman was sent by the government to calm Batman because they see to take out Batman because they see him as like an instigator and a threat and a criminal and stuff. Now, if you look at Batman versus Superman, even though Superman is not acting as an agent of the government, that's still the same motivation. Superman sees Batman as this threat to society and a criminal. So in other words, it's the same plot, but it's expressed differently, which I love. I love it when Snyder does that. I think it's really great. So in other words, 300, love this comic. Next week, we're going to be talking about Berserker Volume 2. And that's what I got for Indie Wednesday. Hope to see you guys this weekend for our Snyder streams. Anyway, stay heroic, everyone. Bye-bye.